Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are back live here on Get Your Roll On. Captain Kirk here. I hope that everyone is well, whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening for yourself. I hope it has been a good one thus far. We are going to be getting down on some Foundry scene building today. And actually, I had a request come in from a follower asking to help him solve an issue with how he could get a particular attribute of a feat to work. So I am going to spend a little time on that to start, but I will just very quickly go drop off a link over on the Foundry Discord since we're working and rocking and rolling in here today, and then we will get started. All right, so let's see if we can't solve the problem. So the question that was asked was, how do we make a feat, right, that is going to be able to be applied to a character in Foundry and have it automatically re-roll any D20 roll of a 1. Skill check, ability check, saving throw, anything like that, it's going to re-roll any 1 that we get on one of those for us, right? So, let us see if we can make that happen. I'm pretty sure I know how to do this, but I want to be fully sure before I give them an answer. Also, me post something. This came in from our Discord community, so if you're interested in being part of the community here at Get Your Roll On, by all means, you can find the Discord link here on the Twitch channel. If you are hearing these words on YouTube, you can find the Discord link on the YouTube channel as well. Feel free to come in and join us. That is where I will be recruiting for this campaign that I've been doing the prep on. I know we took a week away from that so that I could get down on some Code Vein. I was just excited about the release, and essentially outside of my regular day job, air quotes, I'm air quoting because it's actually a night job, but outside of my regular job and this, I don't actually really have a whole lot of time for gaming just for myself, and I was super stoked about Code Vein, and thought people might want to come check it out with me, and so that's why I was doing that there. But, let me see here. All right, just wanted to get that shot off. So, question of the day that I'm asking everybody in my community if they'd stop by is, what is your favorite D&D class and why? Or if you're still very new to D&D, what is the class that you haven't played yet that you were most interested in trying and why? If you were hearing these words after the fact over on YouTube, feel free to leave that down in the comments. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, feelings, and opinions. But without further ado, we are going to try to solve this feat problem for our friend Goldenfire. 2000 is who this question comes in from. Another awesome streamer who also does D&D content as well. So definitely go check out Goldenfire's channel. Again, if you are hearing these words after the fact, you will find a link to Goldenfire. Oh, hey, what's up, Golden? Well, so I was mentioning, so I'm going to try to solve your, you're being talked about because I'm going to try to solve your feet question. Hey, Vanity, what's going on? A hydrate? Oh, well, thank you. I actually chronically do not drink enough water, so thank you for the hydrate, actually. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I was going to be here doing Foundry stream today anyway, so I figured I might as well solve your problem on stream. Putting a new race in my Foundry at the moment. I want to get it as automatic as possible. Yeah, for sure. Just waking up. Well, Goldenfire. Yeah. No, Goldenfire is great. Actually, we can do this. Since you guys are both here, I can, since I set this thing up, I can actually do this now. Boom. And oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Yes. So this is, so I am going to be working on answering your question, Golden, I promise. But this is the multi-level map, that we've been working on, here on the streams that I do for, essentially I'm just doing all of my campaign prep on stream. Don't worry, take your time. Oh, yeah. Of course, and thank you for that. But yeah, so essentially, I'm doing all the campaign prep for the upcoming playtest that I'm going to be doing of my FPS 5e supplement that I'll be releasing later this year. I've been doing all the campaign prep here on stream, and mostly because I have to do it anyway. So like, you know, and I also want to stream, so it's a win-win. But also it's just kind of a Foundry can be a kind of difficult tool to use at some points. And a lot of it isn't very, I would say, intuitive. And so I know that there were a lot of things I really struggled with at first when I first started using Foundry. So also doing it as kind of a how-to. So this was a multi-level map. So you'll notice when I like mouse over, there's the lower level here and then the upper level that exposed. And then of course, depending on the height of our token and everything like that. Your spark just lit up. What is that? Oh, well, thank you for the follow, Golden. I appreciate you. Sorry, that's the first time since I set up the new chat bot that I'd actually seen a little like follow message pop up. So I was like, wait, what does that mean? I had to go like look at my Discord activity feed. Or Twitch activity feed. But yeah, so we were working on this as a multi-level map, basically allowing you to transition between the two maps in the same scene. Because you'll notice if I don't have a token selected, and I mouse over the area and then I select one of the tokens on the lower level, they see the lower level versus when you're on the upper level, you see the upper level. So that's mostly what we've been working on here. I swear I follow. Yeah, I thought you did too. I thought you did too, but I mean, no worries, man. Twitch does weird things sometimes, so I'm not tripping about it. But yeah, so that's mostly what we've been working on for the last couple sessions. But Golden came with the question of how we would set up a feat in Foundry to be able to automatically reroll ones for us. And so I'm pretty sure I know that answer, but I wanted to figure that out on stream. But since you guys are both here, question of the day for my community is, what is your favorite D&D class and why? Or if you haven't played a lot of different classes, then what class would you be most interested to try? So I see Golden over on Discord said that your favorite playstyle was Bard. But if you want to fuck around, you love doing Barbarian. Been falling in love with Barbarian. Barbarian is, weirdly enough, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, if I'm not going to play a spellcaster, I just want to go full Barbarian. Like, Fighter is like, I don't know. It feels like a weird middle ground to me. Yeah, Barb is fun. Barb is definitely fun. But let's see here. So first step is we're going to create an item. I do know this much for sure. It's going to be a feature. So bam, that handles that. The main thing that we really need to worry about from the actually handling, because essentially everything else is just flavor text. We can put in our description. We can do all of that sort of stuff. But the main thing that we want to figure out first is the effect. Only two spellcasters I play are Warlock or Druid. Okay, Warlock or... You know, I have literally never played a Druid. Ever. In all my years of D&D. Almost 30 years. 28 years of playing D&D now. And I have never once played a Druid, actually. Because playing Bard is no spellcasting. You play to seduce. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. You know, I'm old. Yeah, no, I am old. I am old. You're not wrong. I am, Methuselah says hello now. For those of you who aren't aware, Methuselah is supposedly the oldest being in existence, if Christian mythology is to be believed. Or was at one point in time. Anyways, bad joke. Been playing for like 13 years now. Sorcerer is my favorite. Wizard might be my second most frequently chosen class. Love rogues if I'm playing a martial class. Rogues are fun. Rogue is my favorite class until 5th edition happened. And they just... So that's the other thing, is like I've been playing long enough that I just still have my comparisons of things from editions of yore, and like, don't hear what I'm not saying. Rogue in 5th edition can still be very fun, but compared to what Rogue used to be, like, oh my god, they neutered my poor Rogue so bad in 5th edition. No, he's not. He's just, well, see, oh, well, thank you for coming to my defense. But no, I am old, you know. Well, I mean, I'm not old. All things are relative, right? I'm not ancient, but by internet years, I'm old. All right. So getting back to your question, Golden. So if we're trying to make this feat and feature work for us, the first thing that we need to do is figure out the effect, right? And essentially we want to do this under changes is where you're going to look at this for this feature. Feature, you can name it whatever you want. I know you had faded in that little description that you sent me, so that's just what I'm going to put here. You can change your icon if you want to change your icon, you want to give it something special, but Really and truthfully, this is going to be the nuts and bolts of how you actually make it do the mechanical thing that you're looking for it to do. And so from here, you're going to add one, right? And then change mode, we're going to do add. Now the cool part is here, you'll notice when you click this up, you should have two options. You're going to have toggle descriptions, toggle full browser. I always toggle both of those on. By default, I believe toggle full browser will be off. The reason why I do full browser on is because specifically to do what you're wanting it to do, you are using the MIDI QOL, what you're going to call it, module for Foundry, right? Because if so, that's what's controlling all your dice rolls, and that's going to make a big difference. Okay, I got you. Well, if you're using, are you using the like suggested module setup or the same are you using the same module setup that Hobo uses? How about that? I think I do. Okay. You probably do. I mean, MIDI QOL essentially is if you have any kind of automated dice roll. Okay, here's the real question. Do your players have the ability to target an enemy, select one of their abilities that triggers a saving throw, and have it automatically cue that other token to roll a saving throw? If the answer is yes, you are using MIDI QOL. And I can't do that. Okay. So you might not be using MIDI QOL. If you are not, so are you manually comparing all of your roles? Do I have a list for you? Oh, do I have a list for you? Let's see here. That's a thing that I should have put together a long time ago. I will tell you what. I will shoot you. Get MIDI QOL. I'll start there. That'll make your life so much easier. But yes, I will put together. There are some modules that all I'll say is I can't take screenshots of their names on stream, and that's as far as I'll go. He's gonna shoot you, run. Definitely not gonna shoot you. MIDI QOL is installed. Okay, cool. Well, so then the save thing that I was talking about is literally just a setting that you can go in there and set. But if you are using MIDI QOL, then the thing that you're going to want to do when you come in here to features, you'll go to your MIDI QOL tab, and then we're looking for if they already have, because there are a lot of things already built in MIDI QOL, and I think that MIDI QOL already has a like re-roll if thing built in here, and in which case I'm pretty sure it's as easy as assigning that to it. So I'm just now scrolling through to try to find, does this thing actually exist or not? Okay. System, so it's not traits, flags, it's not a flag. Okay, advantage all ability checks. I think it will actually be called reroll. Yeah. Okay, sorry, I was looking at this because this is the minimum number roll. Flags minimum. I've only played 5e D&D, but I've played other systems like Pathfinder, Shadowrun, Vampire the Masquerade, and a few others. Yeah, for sure. So, if you're familiar with the Pathfinder rogue, then I don't know if you've played. Have you played Pathfinder 1e or 2e? Do you know? Also, Shadowrun, Chef's Kiss, one of the most difficult systems to make a character for, but I love that setting so much. Both? Okay. So yeah, so the 1E Pathfinder Rogue, gotcha. So if you have any experience with the Pathfinder First Edition Rogue, that's essentially the 3.5 D&D Rogue, and oh my god, is it just leaps and bounds better. Like if you're playing an assassin, it actually feels like an assassin. Like things like that. I mean, and it really was what I feel like the rogue is meant to be, which is a glass cannon martial character, right? You know, it's squishy. You have to play it with finesse or you're just going to get blown up, you know, but if you do it right, oh man, you just delete people. Okay, never target. But yeah, I was sad. That'll actually be, once I'm done with revising the Ranger for 5e, Rogue that's where I'm on to next. I just feel like I started with Ranger because everybody universally, I feel like, shits on the Ranger in 5e so much. And for good reason. Like, I just can't for the life of me understand why Wizards would build an entire subclass or an entire class that is essentially tethered to a first level spell. I mean, it just blows my mind. One of my D&D friends has been trying to talk us into switching to Pathfinder, or at least playing some in it. There's always like, Pathfinder does it better. It's a run-on joke at this point. Mostly the topic came up when Hasbro kept trying to nuke all of us folks trying to make D&D content for entertainment. Yeah, no, for sure. That's actually a big part of why I am trying to do what I'm trying to do. So the revised Ranger will be the first part of this. Is separate from like the FPS 5e thing, but another like personal project is working on what I'm calling Y5e or your 5e, and essentially since Wizards, I think after Tasha's Rangers are good, love Fey Wanderer, various other weird Ranger classes. I love Rangers. I love Rangers too, and I would agree in 2014 they actually, after Tasha's, they were good. After Tasha's, the 2014 Ranger was good, and I actually think that 2024 came along and made it exponentially worse. But I think that even in 2014, there is a lot of flavor in the heart, because essentially my biggest complaint about the Ranger is they took a lot of what felt like other classes' features and then just slapped them on the Ranger to fix things that were wrong with it, in place of just redesigning the features that were already there in a way that actually made them meaningful and not useless. But that's my own personal take on it. Only class I haven't played even once is Paladin, and probably won't, to be honest. Actually, so I have played precious little D&D. I am actually almost always a DM. And so I've played very few characters in 5th edition. I have played one rogue and a one-shot. I played a ranger cleric. I have played one fighter cleric. I did play a druid, I guess. I've played one druid cleric, although I was essentially just dipping stars druid for bonus action attacks at range. Oh, so problem number 2 arises. I can't activate MIDI QOL. Wow. Okay. Well, that does present an issue because the only way that I know of to be able to activate it, well, God, I would have to look at your Foundry instance. Oh, you figured out why. Okay, well, wonderful. But yeah, so the very first, long story short, the very first character that I actually played in a campaign for D&D 5e was a paladin who started off as Oath of Devotion and ended up becoming an Oathbreaker throughout the course of the campaign. So, but that was my one and only foray into Paladin, and it just felt way too busted, and so I just kind of never went back to it. Okay, it's optional saves, optional skill bonus. Okay, range override, no. Don't want it to be an override. We don't want it to be a modifier. I mean, you know, I wouldn't mind having you look at me do this. I mean, I wouldn't mind looking at you do that either. I don't know if I have a way to do that on stream necessarily. Just because I would have to run it in a browser instance, and I have so many other browser instances running right now, I'm worried OBS would freak and not know which Google Chrome instance they were supposed to be looking at, and there are definitely some things that I don't want to reveal and or docs on stream. I can make an extra screen if needed. We can do it after the stream or so. Okay, for sure. Yeah, if we could do it after the stream, I'm probably going to be finishing up around 3 today, and I'll definitely have about an hour before I need to start getting ready for work. Okay. Supers. No damage. Okay. So, macro. Traits. No. Bonuses. Okay, so that was a little bit what I was afraid of. I'm gonna check the other. Just in case. So triggering rerolls is just notoriously hard in Foundry in general. Yo. And that's probably why they're not pre-built. So... Okay. Give me... So this is where I'm going to consult my help desk for Foundry. Let's see here. Just have to make sure I'm putting things in the right place. Here we go. Because now I'm just intrigued on how you would do this, but I do know that there's like nearly no way. I've never actually seen rerolls automated. Okay, never mind. I can't figure out why it's not working. Okay, fair. Well, so I'm gonna guess if it's not allowing you to enable MIDI QOL, I'm gonna guess that maybe you have another conflicting module that MIDI QOL either won't work with, or you have a mismatch in either your D&D system version or your Foundry system version. One of the two. Saying my version is too old where MIDI QOL doesn't work. Yeah. Oh, the D&D system. Okay. Yeah. So, so you should go to, so if you go back to your initial setup in Foundry, you should be able to see, and I can just do that here. Let me just do that. Yeah. No. So, return to setup. So on your add-on modules, right, when you're like looking at all of those, this part I can show. So on like MIDI QOL, should be able to, yeah. So if you look, I think it's, yeah, on the info one, where it has the GitLab link. If you go to that GitLab link, you'll usually be able to follow that back, because what probably happened is you probably updated the MIDI QOL module to without updating your D&D system. If you have a lot of things that are already built, you don't necessarily want to update your D&D system, because that could break a lot of things that you've already built. Unfortunately, this is where Foundry gets like kind of wonky sometimes. But if you follow this GitLab link, and you go to that, right, you should be able to then follow, like that should be able to get you to the GitHub page for the module. And then from the GitHub page for the module, you should then be able to, you should be able to trace back like what version of it will work with your, what version of it will work with your D&D system. My system does not want to update as it's not installing at the moment, and BS. Okay. Okay. Well, we can probably still get you figured out. But it does sound like, at least for tonight, you're going to probably have to handle the rerolls manually. I should hopefully have an answer for how to do this for you, but I do know it's going to take MIDI QOL to make it happen. Error with installing update. Okay. So what version of Foundry are you running? Like, so if you go all the way back, welcome to the Foundry issues troubleshooting stream. No, but this is part of why I do these Foundry things. So, and talking through these things might solve these problems for other people. So I'll go back to setup as well. And then if you're just on, where is it? So up here, if you go to update, current version, what version build are you on? 13.351? Okay, but your D&D won't update? What version of the D&D module are you running? 5.2.2? Same as me? Okay. So what version of MIDI QOL do you have? because I'm running 13.0.29. So you may just need to update the VFXual module. Could be the only problem. Hold up. Wait. Okay. I will give you a moment. Oh, I didn't actually set this. I don't know why I'm doing that. My whole system and worlds are gone? No way. Wait a minute. So the D&D system is gone? Okay, so your game world is on 5.2.5. Okay, of the D&D system. So I'm running 5.2.2, and I'm running VFXual version. I would have to go back and look again. 13.0.29. So every time there's an incremental update, so this is one of the things with Foundry that I will say, unlike a normal computer, sometimes updating is the worst thing that you can do. So like, for example, now that I'm building this whole game world, right? Once I actually start running this campaign, and actually even now that I've started building like this world and these scenes and everything like that, I'm not updating a single module until that whole campaign's over. Because just unfortunately, I mean, yes, you can back up your stuff and then you can roll things back and then you can reinstall. But honestly, all of that is just so much of a hassle, that I just don't even. Yeah, I figured out that it hurts. Yeah, no joke. No joke. So yeah, that's why I always forward, never backward is basically kind of the way that I think of, with Foundry, because even when I have backed things up and then rolled systems back and everything like that, and then reinstalled from like the backups, I've had so many things end up broken still. Every time I've talked to people about it on the Foundry Discord, they're just like, this shouldn't happen. I'm just like, okay, well, it is. And it happens for me almost every time that I have something like this happen. So I just don't anymore, you know? But long story short, I should still be able to get an answer for you of how to do it, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to get it to work for you unless you've got VFXual operating. But yeah, if you uninstall a game system, any game system, all the access to all the worlds that are tied to that game system will disappear. Even though the world itself is still there, it just won't let you access it because Foundry can't run the system that the world is built in at that point. All right, so it looks like I won't have an answer immediately, but I should hopefully have one for you. Maybe not by today, but I should have one for you hopefully by tomorrow at the latest. And yeah, after I finish streaming, if you still want me to look at what you've got going on there, happy to do so. Anybody else who has Foundry issues, if you ever want help with troubleshooting stuff, if you're hearing these words after the fact, like, feel free to join the Discord, if for no other reason than just to have a less clogged space than the Foundry Discord to be able to ask questions. I don't have the answer to everything, clearly, as I'm unable to answer Golden's question, like, right away. But I'm pretty good at knowing where to find the answers, and, you know, a big part of why I started this channel was to foster the furthering of the tabletop RPG community. And in today's day and age, we're almost all playing remotely in the digital space, right? And so Foundry, I feel like, is the best tool for that. So anything that I can do to help make Foundry more accessible for other folks, I always want to do. So, all right. So now I guess I need to think about where the heck was I with this map and what's the thing that I need to do next. All right, so so with the tiles, boom, yeah, we've got all these guys. We put all those in place. Yeah. Okay. So we set all those. So the next thing that I really need to do is work on making sure. So let me grab this token here, and we're going to see sightline wise what is able to be seen, what is able to not be seen from certain places, because I want to make sure that sight lines are working appropriately. And it looks like maybe they already are. I was worried I was going to have to create a lot, because I definitely have. All right, so if I click drag, yeah, because I have this token under here and this one up here on the bridge. Okay. Oh, so that's right, because I have it to block line of sight right now with this tile. So I'm going to disable that. And we're going to see where I need to put in blocking tiles, basically, like invisible blocking tiles, to actually create the proper visual occlusion here. They're not fully going to be able to see those things through there. It's just going to show up as... That's another thing that's going to bother me. This is the only issue that I have with multi-level maps in general, right? So there's like two different ways to approach this. I could do this whole upper level as a separate map. Now I would have to rip the whole top portion of this out and go rebuild it as a separate scene. But if I were to do that, then I could use the multi-level maps drawing function to essentially get it to clone tokens from one scene to another scene, and then I would be able to have it to where tokens down here were able to be seen even though they were actually on this layer. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I've already done it, so the best thing we can do is just go back and fix it. There we go. Yeah, so the best representation, though, that I can give, right, to one of my players using multi-levels like this, when I have, because in a perfect world, if I were better at things like photo manipulation and that sort of stuff, I could take this map file, and then I could actually just cut out this whole inner portion here, right, to essentially make it negative space so that everything below it was actually able to be seen when I overlaid it as a tile. And that is probably a skill that, at least based on the way that I build scenes in Foundry, I am probably going to have to master at some point. Today doesn't need to be the day for that, though. But that is how I would achieve that if I were looking to do that and make it really the quality of scene that I want it to be. But I can do it this way for now. So we don't want to occlusion mode, token field of vision. And then, yeah, levels. Show, if enabled, tile will be shown even when the token is below. No. If enabled, tile will not block sight. So this is what I want for right now. Update. Then I'm going to come back here. I'm going to select this token. Okay. Yeah. But here's the issue, is that this token down here, well, they should be able to see that token. And then what happens? Back it up. Same thing happened here. Okay. Is this actually going to allow me to get away with, like, not having to do this? So sometimes you get lucky and your walls are in all the right places where you don't actually have to. Yeah, because these two tokens should be able to see and target one another. All right, well, I guess I'm going to be able to get away with just leaving it like that and not having to worry about it. So that actually, that helps a lot. So I guess really, okay, no, so there are some other places I want to test this, actually, before I go too far. Before I just think that I'm, you know, made in the shade here. Let me... So I'm going to take this token, and we're going to move you into here. Right, that's... Okay. That's the kind of thing that I was a little bit afraid of. Okay, so, but I think if I do some strategically placed tiles over some of the, like, major areas where overlap like that can occur, I can get away with just doing that. So I'm just going to do that. So we're going to come back over here. All right, and then we're going to use our handy dandy invisible tiles trick, right? So I'm going to take this guy. Well, actually, I'm going to pull a whole new one out of the tile browser for this. Let's see here. Assets, textures. Doesn't really matter which one of these I use, because again, I'm going to essentially make it invisible right afterwards. Here's the bad part is I just like I'm breaking my own rules for things. So now let's see if we can find where that tile exists. That tile is not in the foreground layer. It's in the background layer. Let's go to lower. Aha, here we go. Cool. So, and that's actually kind of perfect for this, but I am going to drag and drop it again. Because I want to make sure it exists specifically within the right layer here. All right. So with this guy, I do want to make sure that it's only set at a certain height. Essentially, I want it to be the ceiling for this whole thing. So we're going to call this 40, right? So elevation 40. And then levels, top height 40, updates. Did that put it up here? Ah, put it up here. Intriguing. Well, that's okay too. Really, it'll serve the same purpose here. But yeah, essentially, I am just going to drag this bad boy to be the size, roughly, of what I've got going on here. Okay. Yeah, and long story short, I think for the most part, this pretty much should suffice. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to come into appearance, and then I'm just going to completely drop the tile opacity to nothing. Is what I'll end up doing at the end. I'm actually going to leave it visible for right now because I'm going to kind of like line out all the spaces that I want like this with these tiles. So I'm going to copy, paste. Resize this guy to fit here. I know that doing it like this looks super wonky, but once you make them all invisible, they'll be completely unseen at that point, and then it'll just create the proper visual occlusion that we're actually like looking for between these different levels in the places that we want that occlusion to occur. So I'm going to go ahead and do the one for this side, and just going to do the whole thing. Okay. And then we'll hit the bridge, and we should be good from there. So we'll just line this guy up with the top of our bridge here, and across, right? And then now we'll just go back. And now this is normally a place where I would use something like mass edit so that I could just drop the opacity on all of these at once. Unfortunately, when you're multi-selecting, when it comes to tiles, because this entire upper level of the map is technically a tile as far as Foundry is concerned, there's too much of a chance of that being selected, as we saw in maybe the last installment of this whole scene creation hangouts thing that I do here. And so we accidentally manipulated the whole upper level of our map in ways that we didn't particularly want to. So not necessarily our favorite thing in the world, but that piece is now done. So that should solve our problem of those two tokens being able to see each other. If I go off the map and go to the lower level, ta-da, these two tokens can now no longer see each other through there. So we're happy about that. All right. So that solves that problem for us. That piece done, taken care of. And now we're ready to moving on to, you know, sprucing up the place a bit, if you will. So we're going to go in and we're going to start illuminating things, giving our torches some light and some auditory sound effects so that we can have the flickering sounds of torches to create the appropriate ambiance for our players. So I'm just going to make a light source, and then I come in here and I pretty much do all these things manually. Again, D&D does actually have specific distances for how much illumination a torch creates, so I like to stick with that and do 20 and 40 on dim and bright. Light animation. All right. Lights are one of the finicky ones that it wants you to save the changes of each tab. Not sure why. They do have one called Torch. And that's typically what I use, though sometimes I almost feel like flickering light feels more torchlight, more torch-like. I do want to give it a little bit of kind of an orangish hue. And this is also a good spot to be able to see when perhaps you have created a seam someplace that you did not really intend to. So here we can see that there's some wall segments that are maybe not properly lining up. So I'll just very quickly click over to the wall side of things. Okay, no, that seems to be attached. Very strange. Okay, okay. Yeah. I am pretty sure I know what's happening here. So this is the one, this is not the one. This is another potential downside of why and how we've created some of these pieces of Foundry the way that we have, or created the pieces of these scenes the way that we have. So essentially here, we've used two tiles overlapping that we've made invisible, and then the walls, right, to create this like box. Well, the light doesn't necessarily want to play nice with that in all instances, because these walls are going to block light, but the roof and floor tiles won't necessarily. So you're going to see that this light looks like it's going through that space, and to a certain extent it is. But we also want to assign an appropriate height to the light, because basically this light is sitting at, I believe, 25 feet. That's why I clicked over on the regions level, so I could very easily see what was going on here. So yeah, 25 feet elevation. So that's when I will come back here, and on the elevation side of things, we'll set that there. And let's actually see what that looks like for our token before we go too much further. This is always the best way to test what your players are going to experience. We'll bring the token out here first. Okay, and then I will go ahead and I will kick this over to night, because that's going to give me a much better indication of what these lights actually look like to a player, right? Okay. All right, so based on the way that we built the walls and things like that, I don't think that there's going to be a way for us to get it to actually truly block the light into there if we don't have the height of the walls extend to the top and bottom, like, height parameters of the level that we've built, which essentially means that I would have had to do this a couple different ways. I could have used multiple levels within one of these levels here, or within one of these like map layers, if you will, and that could have potentially done that for us. But the more I'm thinking about it, it's really not like those are such small spaces that I've really only built the way that I have to create the like line of sight constraints and things like that for players that are going in and out of the buildings and that sort of stuff, because there's going to have that like kind of FPS feel right to this campaign, and I want all those sight lines and things like that. So the more I'm thinking about it, I don't know that I really mind as much that the torch is kind of illuminating a space in the way that it might not normally, but we will go ahead and go back to our light controls. Excuse me. And actually, I will just let this stay at 0. I'm not sure why this didn't save for us. Yeah, that was what I was looking for there. A little bit of that orangey kind of feel. Okay. Now, this will be the one that I'll copy and paste I'm not sure why that didn't save before, but we'll go ahead and roll this back to day so that I can actually see what I'm doing. Oh, help if I clicked the day button instead of just the night button again, huh? Friends. This is just layer number 1 of all of our torches here. If you were here for the last map, you'll know that we'll go back and we'll add another light layer over the top of these to just give that flame of these torches a little bit more of a sort of, as I like to call it, like alive feeling. Right now, we're very zoomed out, but, you know, if you think about it from the player perspective, when, you know, the player's actually coming through here, they're probably going to be much more zoomed in, things of that nature, and so I always like to focus on those, like, little details, not because they're necessities by any means, but just for me, they're the kinds of things that if I were playing that would make the scene feel more alive, so that's kind of what I aim to create with effects like that. We've got some other stuff that we're going to come in here and do with this upper platform here, but for now I'm just focusing on all of the kind of like already built-in VFX of the map that I am going to be utilizing. So next we can go ahead and pop up to our upper level. Right, it's going to look like all of our lights are shining through that. The question is, are they? Okay, so they are. So, some of that we want, and some of that we don't. So these lights that are down here, we definitely still want those to shine through. And there is like a setting here that I think... Okay, so I guess the question that I'm somewhat left with is, why is this tile not blocking all of those lights from below? Because on our other map, it is. Oh, it's specifically because the lights exist within that. Okay. Yeah, so this is different aspects of scenes function in different ways. Keep in mind, it's been a minute since I built a multi-level map, so that's why I was having to kind of go and double check there. So what I want to do here is essentially I want all of my lights. I don't want to just create a random light off there in the middle of nowhere. I want the selector. So I actually want the top height on all of these guys to end at 39 feet. Because I want them inside this level. And then what I will actually do is for the torches that are going to be visible on this level, well, I'll explain more easily here in a second once I can actually like look at things on the map. So let me set the height to what I want it at. Top height, 39. Apply. Awesome. So now when I go to my upper level, everything still shines through. Because it doesn't stop vision. That's right. But the other ones do. Okay. So if I do this, just basic map here. Position, levels, overhead, allow site, update tile. Okay. Is this one of those weird things where I'm seeing it, but the tokens wouldn't now? No, the token still does. Okay, this is a very strange behavior. That is not how I am traditionally used to this working. Okay, did it actually change their height? It did change your top height. Ah, okay. That's why. So, lighting. When enabled, levels will not take control of light visibility. This option should be disabled in scenes that make use of multiple levels. Ta-da. Boom. There we go. Now. Ta-da. Okay. Perfect. So, what I will do for all the spots where these torches, like down here, are clearly visible. So keep in mind that piece of the illumination was, at least from my memory, not a piece that was globally controlled within the scene like that, at least in when I was operating with things in version 12. So that's why I kind of had no idea where to look for it at first. If I am incorrect on that, I may just not remember that that's how I had to set that up. But from here, what I'll do is I'll actually create another light source that is effectively just dimmer in brightness to represent these torches down here and like look a little bit smaller so that it creates like slightly dimmer illumination of those same areas, but from up here to give the illusion to people on this level that people are that those torches are visible, even though they're technically, those light sources are all down here. But we'll get to that in a minute. For now, if I come back to lights, should be able to just select this guy. Ta-da. If I go to my upper level, if memory serves, this should also now set the height of this correctly. Yep, within the scene. So we can now just go around and put the new torches in place. Right. Oop. Not mean to turn you off. Okay. Right. Oh, no. Missed one over here. There we go. And so that handles all of those torches. So now I'll take one of these guys, and I will play a little bit with the advanced options to give this a little bit dimmer of a feeling. Usually I just do that by turning the luminosity down. So you'll notice immediately not quite as bright as these torches that are up here. And then I think I'm going to bring up the shadows a little bit. And then the other thing that you can do is color intensity. Bringing that down kind of also makes it feel a little bit dimmer. And then because I'm looking at it from above, I'm actually going to reduce each of these by half. Because I just want it to look like it's the torches that they can see shining down here from below. And then with this one, I'm actually going to, so that that illumination is not up top, I am going to actually decrease the emission angle on this one a little bit. Probably to, that looks about right. And then should be able to rotate that to here. So still putting a little bit of illumination on the cliffs, but yeah, I could probably reduce the emission angle by like 2 more degrees. Maybe a little more than 2 more degrees. Just go 230. What does 230 look like? How about that? Okay, cool. Almost perfect. We're going to rotate ever so slightly. Just like that. Perfect. Okay, and I don't think we really have... I'm going to grab this again here. Just see... And then, is there... Okay, not a spot with a torch down here. I'm going to double check my lower map just to make sure that's true. That is true. Okay, cool. All right. So there we go. And now, click back over to one of our tokens. And we can see the difference in the illumination from the torches that are on the same level to the ones that are below. And in general, I kind of feel like the intensity of like this glow is a little more than I kind of want it to have. So I'll go to my lower level first. Because this will be very easy since I don't have any like weird lights that are above it. Oh, I was grabbing tokens. I don't want to grab tokens. I want to go to my light controls and I want to grab my lights. There we go. All right. And so now I'm going to come in here and just kind of do the same thing with the color intensity. I'm just going to dial it down a bit. We're going to try 2.5, see what that looks like. Yeah, I like that much better. The actual like torch seems like it's visible. It doesn't quite feel so, I don't know, Michael Bay lens flary. That's maybe the best way that I could put it. So, and then I'll come up here and I'll do the same thing with these other torches. And then we'll go back and I'll apply sort of the little crackling fire effects that I like to do for these guys too. Just grab all of these. Cool. And then, yeah, I think 2.5 was good. 2.5 seemed like kind of the sweet spot. Boom. Awesome. Yeah, still noticeably different in brightness from those torch lights that are down below, right? All right, and so now we can go down to our lower level, and we can add in our little crackling fire effect. Just click back over here. Yeah. Okay, so for this one, in case you weren't here for it last time that I did these, this one I'm going to make very small. I essentially just want it to be like basically right at the size of like inside of this square, which does mean it's going to make it difficult to see. But we'll just kind of click off and check. Now this one I do want the color intensity kind of dialed up, and then the light animation that I use for this is ghostly light. I think when you overlay it over something like this, just gives it a really cool, to me, kind of crackling fire sort of effect. I'm going to make this a much darker orange, right? And then I'm pretty much just going to one for one put it right over that. Try to center it on my torch. And then if I click over to the tile controls, I can adjust the intensity as I see fit. So we'll come back to our lighting controls. Right? And so it's not a lot, right? And it's not meant to be, so sometimes less is more, right? But you can just sort of notice the way that that lighting effect kind of wisps off around the edges of the torch. To me, it just gives that flame a little more of a sort of alive feeling. And so I really like the subtle effect that it adds. And so this is why I do this multi-layered light approach for all my torches. Really any like actual flame based light that I have in a scene. I might sometimes overlay other light effects over each other to achieve other goals, but for torches, this is pretty much the way that I handle it almost always. Right. Do I have? Okay, I do have the doubled up lights there. I thought I did, but... Right, and so now should be able to see that little wispy flame effect on all my torches now, which makes me happy. Little detail, players may not notice it at all, but for the players that do, it's one of those little things that, I don't know. I would really appreciate that somebody took the time to, like, do something like that if I were the player, so that's why I like to do it for my players. And then after that, the other layer that I add to my torches is an auditory effect. So we'll go to ambient sounds. And I'm just going to create a basic one here. And then effect radius, I'm going to have it be the same as a normal torch. We can leave the default volume pretty much where it is. And then now the question becomes, do I remember where I put the sound bites? Here we go. So now the question becomes, oof. All right. Which one of these auditory effects was the one that I have been using? Because I have a bunch in here that for different, what's the term? Intensities of flame. So I'm going to flip back over to my other scene really quick. And I'm going to double check what that auditory file is. Okay, so it is the BBC Fire. Okay. Then we'll just flip back to the desert village. Important reminder, anytime you come back to a scene using levels, you must re-enable the levels module whenever you do so. This will also be true even if you were only navigating between scenes utilizing the levels module. I'm not sure what it is that requires levels to actually be enabled every time you transition to a scene that has the levels module like utilized on it, but it does. And so if you don't, then you will accidentally put anything I were to put on the map before I'd clicked that would weirdly exist in this like anomalous space where it's like technically part of both but also neither levels, and so it kind of like just ruins everything you were trying to build at that point, because you then have to like go back into the scene with the levels module off to be able to see all the different things, and then once you've done that, you can select all of them, you can set them into their appropriate height parameters so that they fit inside of one of these levels, and then you'll be able to see them again. You don't want to do that to yourself. All right, so back to this, and then this. Select file. And then we use volume easing. Essentially, that's just going to make the volume or the auditory effect more or less prevalent the closer you are to it proximity-wise. And I'll just leave it default there. I only really go in and change the levels within the given item if I'm really trying to tweak and equalize the levels of volume of like a bunch of different auditory effects. Like, for example, let's say that this scene had a torch burning next to a rushing river. Well, I want to have an auditory effect for the flowing water that river has, right? But I also want to have the auditory effect of the torch. Well, but the river is clearly going to be the more like noticeable sound. So in that situation, I would probably bring the volume level of the torch down, right? To try to equalize that within the scene so that way, from my player's perspective, they can just dial up or down all the ambient sounds of that scene with their ambient like sound controls in their Foundry instance without having to worry about like one sound overriding another, things of that nature, and everything just kind of stays at the appropriate level for them at that point. But yes, this is essentially your way to EQ different auditory effects in the scene if you're trying to do that. When it's just one auditory effect that's coming from multiple sources, like I'm going to be doing with this, I don't really have any other major auditory effects. I might have one major flat background ambient sound that would be running as well, but I actually kind of want that to sit below the sounds of something like these torches, right? So it all just kind of depends on the scene. All right, so I've got my auditory effects in now. And we can go ahead and go to our upper level now. And actually, we will come back to the lower level first. And then we will grab one of our little wisp lights that we're using for our sort of crackling flame looking effect. Go ahead and get those on the ones up here now. All right. And then I'm going to... Oh, it looks like I actually... Yeah, so I missed a torch that's down below over here. So I'll actually take this because I'm going to change the emission angle. To this one, I'm just going to set it at a flat 180 because I basically just want that. Right, because if memory serves with the way that I've done the walls here, that part probably won't be seen by most anyway. And now the thing that I was going to do is I'm going to take one of these, and I do want to now do a version with the color intensity dialed down. We'll dial it down to about half, and then we'll use that same thing for these guys here. May need to go back and adjust the luminosity on these two, but we'll unselect and we'll give that a little look-see. Yeah, I do think I want to take that luminosity down a little bit so they're not quite so vibrant. Good news for me is they're all going to be the light sources on top, so... Okay, and then here, just dial this down to, try it at a 2. We'll see what that looks like. You know, I don't even think I put the upper light in place on these two. So there we go. Now that looks like what I wanted it to look like. Perfect. And then let's see here. I'm going to move this guy a little bit further back, actually. Cool. Just so that like, this back portion of the emission angle isn't quite so obvious, because that tiny little overlap there at the edge of the stone is barely noticeable, really. So, yeah. Awesome. Okay. It looks like it reset all my secondary torches. Did it do the same thing on the lower level? No, not at all. Weird. It kind of looks like it reset the... No, I guess it didn't. I guess it's just the way that it looks on this versus that lower level. Being the background colors being much darker. All right. Cool. There we go. Illuminated by torchlight. So now I will just come down here to the lower level. And we'll grab our auditory effect. And we will put that down as well. I'm not going to bother with the auditory effect for the ones down here. If this would largely just because of how far the distance between the two of them is, if the distances were closer, then I would do another auditory effect, but this is where I would come in with some of that, like, turning down the, like, base volume level of the auditory effect, right? So that it was quieter than the other ones, but if it were closer, like if this level were only 10 feet above the other level, then I might do something like that. But as it stands, this level currently sits like 40 feet above. All right. So that actually, for the most part, sums up what we're going to be doing with this scene. Some other effects here. Let's click off. So this, yeah. I don't know that I want to have any kind of glowing effect to any of this. That is just meant to be blood. We'll see. Might change my mind on that. I feel like as I'm looking at it, I kind of am changing my mind on it, but how we're going to do that is the question. So let me first, I think I'm going to come down to my lower level. And this is where I'm going to start putting in some details here for this scene. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my tile browser. I don't know whether I already have these assets in here or not. We will see. Structures, no. Magical. Okay. All right, so it doesn't look like I've already got what I'm looking for here, so let me first do this. We're going to create a folder, and this is going to be called statues. All right, and I apologize, you guys won't be able to see this piece of it, but I'm just going into where I have all my assets saved online, and I'm importing this into Foundry. Once I find the appropriate one that I'm looking for. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. Open up this guy. This is what I will put down first. We're going to resize it down a little bit. We'll try 700 by 700. I think that's probably going to be a good size for this platform. I do want it to be pretty prominent here. And then in situations like this, so it all kind of depends on the map, right? I'm going to be overlaying a few different things here. But because this looks so drastically different than the stylizing of the map itself, this is what I will sometimes do to give it a little bit of a blend, is I will actually just take the opacity down to like 85 or 0.85, right? And it's not perfect, right? But it's like you can't really tell that that's like a body that you're looking through there if you don't know that it is before, but it does give it a little ever so slightly more of a homogeneous feel with the rest of the scene, just because clearly it is very different, stylistically. There will be hopefully enough. Usually, when I do that in a lot of scenes, you can go about it in a few different ways. Here, I'm not going to be adding a ton, which is why I'm trying to kind of achieve this like sort of blending effect, right? With the tile as it stands. If, like on the previous scene, if you were here for it, we did that whole little like tent spread thing outside of like the main barracks, right? And so there kind of becomes this like, once there's enough of it present within the scene, then it no longer looks out of place, right? Because it's kind of the joke in playing music. I play guitar, and the joke in solos is if you screw up a note, play it 3 times, because then it sounds like it was on purpose. So it's kind of that same thing, is it's like it only feels out of place potentially because of there being so few. Once you have enough of it, it doesn't feel as out of place. But I don't really have better assets to work with, so I'm going to do the best with what I've got. But usually I will, if I'm modifying a scene, I will just try to make sure that I'm making enough modifications that it looks like it kind of belongs there, is I guess what I'm getting at. And I apologize. All of these assets are nested in like different folders, and it's all using the default file structure that all these files came with. And so I can't always remember what's nested where. Okay, there we go. Now to find the right material. There we go. It's not quite the stone shade that I'm looking for. Do I have a darker one? There we go. You look right. There we go. Yeah. Okay. And then the other thing that I'm going to do here too is I'm actually going to come to this, and I'm going to see if I can't darken this up a little bit. Cool, because I want this to have kind of almost like an obsidian-esque look to it. I think that does dictate that I'm going to turn that up a little more. And then we'll do the same thing. The reason why I copied that is we're going to do the same thing with this that I'm about to drop atop it. Now, we reduce the size here, and I do want this to kind of sit in the center. We're going to bring this down to 350. I think that's going to size more appropriately with how we reduce the size on this one. Yes. And then I'm going to do the same thing with both. So under appearance first, I'll do the color. Boom, we'll update that to match. And then I'm going to bring this down to that 8.5 just to give it a little bit more of that quasi-blending effect, like I said. It's not perfect. It definitely still looks like it is from something else, right? And I won't pretend that it doesn't. But for the most part, it achieves what we're essentially looking for. All right. Then from here, going to, do I have, okay, so I have this, but I don't have the right one that I'm looking for, don't think. Or so I'm essentially looking for a stain that's going to allow me to make this look like there's like dried blood in the bowl. And I don't know that I have the exact thing that I'm looking for. So keep in mind, I'm not making this like overly gory for no reason. This is going to be an enclave of vampires that is dedicated to a legitimate blood god. So. Okay. Well, so when all else fails, you look for something else. It could potentially serve that same purpose if modified. But I don't necessarily want to put it in that folder, so we'll go back to this folder. Ooh, and I'm kind of glad I did, because I think we're going to put those on our statue. We'll look at this other one too. Ah, here we go. I think this is what I was looking for. It's absolutely what I was looking for. Okay, we'll just put both of these guys in here. One of them will work. Yeah, we'll use this one. And then appearance, and we're just gonna make it a little bit darker. A little bit darker. Ta-da! And then we'll resize it. Well, of course, it's not going to save the color that we had it at. Of course not. There we go. Please don't grab that. There we go. Actually, I should probably just do this way. Let's try 100 by 100. I think that's going to get it at roughly the size that I want it for this. That. There. Yes. No, a little bit bigger. We'll go 110 by 110. Not much bigger. Okay, perfect. And then... there. And then I actually am going to make this darker still. Perfect. And then I'm going to give it a fair amount of transparency. I'll lighten it up a little bit more with the transparency. Perfect. Ta-da! All right. Basin of blood. I maybe said that way too happily. That's okay. Okay, and then to fit our statue, we want to drop this to 350 and this to what, 175 maybe? Yeah, that looks about right. But we want to move this out of the way. Bring you up. Yeah. I also need to grab your color so that I can do that here. And then same thing, we'll give it that. Right, and then this needs to come full top. It's not quite centered as much as I would like. There we go. Looks a little better. And then we're going to add some other embellishments here to the base of our statue. So we'll come to tile controls, tile browser. And we're going to look for others, overlays and effects. Yeah. Okay. Trying to decide which of these to use. I found the thing that I'm looking for, but there we go. And we're going to make this guy pretty small for what our application for it is going to be. Doesn't quite fit there the way that I might have liked. Well, I have a new idea then for that. Let's do this. Let's come back to our statue. Okay. And we're going to grab the tint off of that. Boom. Do this 350 by 350. That's looking almost right. Let's try 375 by 375. I think that's going to be ta-da. All right, I'm going to go ahead and give this its opacity. Or reduce its opacity, I should say. And then we're going to drop it. And then we're going to come to this one. And we're going to drop it. Cool. And then that ends up exactly where we wanted it. So those should be, yeah, those pieces. Remove those off there for a moment. So I can ever so slightly adjust this. Perfect. That is exactly where I want that. Now we can come back here to this. And then we'll do 375. We'll see how this guy lines up here. Okay, feeling good about that. Oop. No. Ah, yes. So in order, I need to go up. No, I need to go. Nope. You up, then move you, then you up, then you up, and then you back here. Nope, I don't want to select those other ones. Get rid of you. Get rid of you. Nope. Unselect you. Oh, please just unselect you. Okay. We'll just start over, because why not? All right. Cool. All right, so that piece is done now. Don't really think that there were a ton of other modifications that I needed to make. I do think I am going to do... Yeah, I do think I'm going to maybe modify the upper level a little bit. But... No, I like it as it stands. Yeah. All right. So actually that finishes up another scene. So I guess the next task at hand is to, well, figure out what scene to do next. So let's peruse maps for a bit, shall we? So we'll come here, scenes. And we'll look at our desert maps. So essentially, the long and short of the premise of this campaign, though it will be to playtest my FPS 5e rule set and supplement that I will be releasing later this year, is that our team is essentially going to be part of the... Well, let me set the stage. There are two major factions currently in the midst of what is a world war, right? In this setting. And one of the two factions, the decidedly less totalitarian and willing to use awful practices like slavery and things of that nature side of it is where the players will find themselves, and they will be working towards trying to reclaim this desert from said totalitarian faction. Essentially an army and nation of giants. So they are here because there are an ancient peoples that once dwelt within the world who had immense magical power, as is often the case in D&D settings. However, they've left behind numerous artifacts in different places around the world, not necessarily intentionally, but just things that were left behind by either these people's passing or when they left the world. It is largely a mystery as to why they are no longer here. That will be a piece of things that the players can engage in if they so choose. But that piece of the setting is as important or not important to the players as they want to make it. However, the faction of giants are here because they are looking to claim such an artifact, largely because it will allow them to be one step closer to being able to manufacture soldiers of their own. Essentially, Warforged exist in this world. They're called sentients, and there are a few different types, but once upon a time, these ancient peoples had created them as sort of a servitor race, or servitor species, if you will, to themselves. But the ability to create them has long since been lost to time, to create true sentient constructs. They're chasing the ability to be able to do that again. Long story short, then the players are coming in to try to stop them. They don't know that that's why they're trying to stop them, because they don't know that that's why they're here. They only know that they need to reclaim this territory to gain a foothold, to be able to push back the northern portion of the giant front in the war effort, right? These are all things that they'll discover during play. But, so what kind of scene, based on all of that, would you guys like to see me do next? So we've done kind of an optional vampire village that the players may encounter, may not. They may ally themselves with. It may become an enemy. This is a totally optional thing. But I can either do one of the giant's fortifications. I could do, because there will be some pockets of resistance of some of the natural desert dwelling people that actually live here. We could do one of their villages next. Anybody have anything that they would specifically like to see? All right. Well, as there has been no response from the chat, so I thank all my lurkers for being here today. And no worries. Let's go for the village. Okay. All right. Sure. Allow me to briefly refer to my world map to see if the village that I want to use here actually makes sense. Because I cannot remember whether there is a coastline to the area that the players are going to be in or not. I think it's pretty much landlocked, but I'm just going to double check. I can even find what I did with my world map. Okay. Oh, well, I suppose it would help if I was looking in the right drive now, wouldn't it? Okay, yeah. So there is coastline. I thought there were. I wasn't sure whether there was. Part of me thought that there was, and part of me was like, nope, no, it's not there. So, okay, cool. So then this is going to be another... This will be one of the holdouts that the Giants have not made it to yet, because it is on the far western front, and the Giants' army is coming from the east. Now the process of importing the map. Map library, desert. Forgive my phone and the spam calls going off in the background. All right, here we go. So I do need to slightly modify this map first, just because I need to change its direction. Just a moment. Perfect. Okay. Boom. Oh, no, don't tell me that the map file is going to be too big again. I don't know what changed between version 12 and version 13 of Foundry. But pre-version 12, or what changed in version 12, because this happened actually in version 12. My entire map library are all maps that are 300 DPI that I work with. Brought to you by Seafoot Games. They're the ones who I get all my maps from. They're awesome. Definitely go check them out if you're looking for D&D maps. They're not a sponsor by any way, shape, or form. I just love the maps that Luke creates. So I try to give him some props whenever possible. But he does several different... I don't want to call them grades, but he does several different... resolutions of map, and with different varying levels of DPI, and all of the 300 DPI maps used to work absolutely fine in Foundry from version 11 backwards. And I don't know what happened in version 12, but half of them, this is what happens. It just shows up as black. It just will not render the map anymore. Now, I don't know whether they put clamps on it, maybe, to help improve performance for people connecting to the client remotely. That's kind of my guess as to probably what happened. But give me just a moment, because that means I now need to go grab the 150 DPI versions of these maps from Luke's website. That is one of the nice part about Seafoot Games too. Again, like I said, not a sponsor, but you know, might as well just mention it while I'm doing this part of it. Is that they store all of their maps on their Patreon, so you can go back and you can look at like every map they've ever done historically. And it's so easy to, like, I have pretty much everything downloaded on my computer, or all the 300 DPI versions. I actually spend a ton of time downloading all of them and organizing them into different folders by type and everything like that. And now none of them work for Foundry anymore. We love it. But here we go. Sorry, I had to find the post that had their Google Drive link in it. Okay. Might just have to switch up to something else because I'm not finding it here. Can reach out to Luke and I can get it most certainly, but don't know that I will get a response from him in enough time for us to do that today. So let's try this a different way. Here we go. All right. Took us a minute, but I finally found something suitable. And of course, it's a multi-level map, so I need to download more than one thing at a time, so it has to zip them first. There we go. All right, now we can finally import the map. So we will come back to, this is no longer going to be called this. Let's configure. We'll call this and we'll pick this. Boom. Save changes. Oh, well. Great. Of course. Of course it did that. Yes. See, again, so many weird things that, like, older versions of Foundry did so well, that I feel like the newer versions have actually made worse. Just in my personal opinion. Everybody's opinions of these sorts of things are different. But I just, like, you used to be able to, if you changed the background, it would auto reformat the scene to be the appropriate size. So this is what we should be looking at here. And this one's going to be fun because this is yet another multi-level map. This one is going to be 3 levels. So, and this will be one of the holdout pockets of resistance. So, first thing we want to do here, let's expand that some. We're going to edit levels. Add a new level. Level. Okay. So, we've got base. Tier 2. Tier 3. All right, and then this is where I start to look around and I try to figure out, okay, well, how high do I need each of these levels to be? And this might be different from level to level, right? So we're going to start with our base. Right now, I'm going to put the base at 0 to, we'll call it 40. I don't think it's actually going to need to be that high, but that's where I'm going to start. I'll drop it down as need be. And then tier 2, so we will put that at 40 to, we'll call it 40 to 80. And then tier 3, we'll put it at 80 to 120. Now, all of these are more than likely going to change, but I just want to give myself some breathing room in each of these levels to be able to actually work with here as I go through Foundry and make all of these modifications. So the first thing that I'm going to do, just like I've done on the other scenes previously, is I'm going to line out my region map that I will utilize for my height controls. For these scenes, right? So this is where we're going to put everything in that's going to automatically adjust token heights as they go up and down throughout the levels of the scene. So I'm always going to start with my lowest level at 0, right? Which means down here in this bottom portion is where that is going to start. So we'll go ahead and head over to the good old-fashioned region tool, and we'll get to lining things out. Strange. This feels very janky. Okay. Why? Okay, we can go ahead and turn editing off there. Actually, the first thing I should do is drop a token on the map to make sure I have things sized appropriately. Why you're at 80 feet, Lord knows. Let's just fix your life. Ah, well, global illumination, that would definitely help. Oh, and the scene has a grid. Okay. Do they have a gridless version? All the maps used to be gridless by default. Very strange. Oh. That's not their grid. That's my grid. That's also why it's being wonky. My goodness. Yeah, gridless. Thank you. Right, but I also need to set global illumination. My goodness. I have clearly not had enough coffee this morning. Actually, I guess now this afternoon. Maybe I do need a caffeinate points redeem. Okay. So now I should actually be able to come in here, and this should hopefully not be janky. Yes, okay, thank you. I can actually draw where I want to draw. I feel like the last map was like all shades of red or green for this. I wonder if this one is going to be all shades of red. Maybe it's Foundry trying to tell me something. Maybe this should be the vampire village. No, I'm just kidding. Also, hello, Ilya. I just realized, I think this is the first time that you've chatted today. I hope you are doing well today, good sir. Hopefully, power woes have been less woeful today than normal. I will keep my fingers crossed for you that they have been at least. I can always see when people are in the chat, but it's like, I also want to be like a lurk-friendly space. Sometimes, you know, sometimes people just want to turn something on in the background and they don't want to engage, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but so it's like, I might know that somebody's watching, but I don't necessarily like call them out or speak to them directly, because I'm not trying to make somebody engage who just wants to sit back, chill, and listen. Today was good enough? Okay, well, good. Good. I'm glad today was good enough. Good enough is better than bad, which is good. At least that's, in my head, the way I would typically look at such a thing. Also, if anybody is here now or hears this after the fact and is interested in checking out the RPG game Lancer, Boss Le Sleepy, one of the wonderful members of our Discord community, is actually going to be running a little mini campaign to teach people the game. I will be participating in it. Not sure if it'll be something that we stream or not, but I'm excited to check it out. Lancer is a mech sci-fi RPG that came out a while back that I have been wanting to try for quite some time and haven't had the opportunity because of everything else that I have had going and working on. So if anybody hears this, like I said, after the fact, if you're watching on YouTube, and you're interested in checking out some Lancer with other members of the community, you can follow the Discord link, which you will find on the YouTube page, or if you're just watching the VOD on Twitch, you will find the link to the Discord community here on my Twitch channel as well. And you can come get down on some Lancer with us. I know I am excited to check it out. Right. Then we will give it the script. Right. And then on to the next. Oh, there's our greens again. actually don't need to trace around that wall at all. I don't know why I thought I needed to do any of that. That's okay. Sometimes you just get, or maybe, I don't know. This happens to me. Maybe it doesn't happen to other people. Sometimes I just get like zoned in on a task and I'm just kind of like going on autopilot after a minute and I don't really realize when I'm like all of a sudden doing something that's like, oh, wait, this isn't actually what I want to be doing anymore because I actually need to pay attention to this task. My mind starts to wander on other things, mostly in the moment on considering the rest of what I'm going to do for the revised 5e Ranger so that I can actually get that done in the tank. Because, yeah, I mean, long story short, I guess someone might ask why I would go about revising a bunch of the D&D classes, and it kind of harkens back to the conversation that we were having earlier with Vanity. In that, for myself personally, you know, she was saying that it was a joke in her D&D group that one of the players is trying to get them to play Pathfinder more extensively, saying Pathfinder does it better, Pathfinder does it better, Pathfinder does it better. Well, better or worse is an absolute relative question. Oh, hey, what's going on, Reaper? What is up, my dude? Well, this is a drastic shift in tone from Counter-Strike, but welcome to mapping things in Foundry for D&D games. I hope that you are doing good this afternoon, my friend. How was Counter-Strike? First, thank you for the raid. You're awesome. Let's do the things. In case you don't know, Reaper XPC, he's a swell dude. He does a lot of SPS and survival games. He's also doing a Oblivion playthrough. So you should definitely go check out Reaper's channel. Show him some love. Let me do this thing. Pyow. Cheater Strike. Is it Cheater Strike? Well, yeah, you've mentioned several times that there's lots of rampant cheating that happens in Counter-Strike. And I am sorry that you were apparently dealing with that today. But yeah, how was it? How were your matches? Decent, I hope. Hopefully, somewhat. Very bad. Oh no. Oh no. That's never fun. That's never fun. But yeah. How are things going for you? Good, good. You know, we're just building maps for my my upcoming playtest campaign for the FPS 5e supplement that I'll be releasing later this year. I'm probably about like once I get like 2, maybe 3 more scenes in the tank, I'll be ready to actually start playtesting. And so just hanging out, working on that, talking about things D&D related, you know, as that's kind of what's going on here on the channel today. And was just most recently discussing why I'm working on revising a number of the classes for the game. We had another friend of the channel, another streamer, Vanity, over earlier, and she was talking about how one of the members of her group was trying to get people to switch over to Pathfinder, which is another if you look at it from a business model standpoint, is another competing tabletop RPG with Dungeons and Dragons. With one of the players in her group saying that Pathfinder does things so much better than D&D. And I was getting at that better is essentially Pathfinder's like Diablo-ish. Pathfinder, if you're talking about either Wrath of the Righteous or Kingmaker, the PC games, then yes, both of those are Diablo-ish, but they're turn-based. Those versions are. However, Pathfinder, both of those games are based on the Pathfinder tabletop role-playing game in a similar fashion that Baldur's Gate 3 is based on the D&D tabletop role-playing game, right? And so she was just talking about how one of the people in her group says that Pathfinder, the tabletop role-playing game, not talking about the PC games, which are both pretty fun. I don't know how much you would enjoy them because you don't particularly care for turn-based stuff. You might like Wrath of the Righteous. I think that there is actually a way to do Wrath of the Righteous real-time strategy-ish. If somebody knows otherwise, please correct me if I'm wrong. Hype! Right? But yeah, she was just talking about how in the tabletop RPG sense, one of her group's members says that Pathfinder does everything better, and I was saying that better is a relative term, but what I will say about Pathfinder compared to D&D is it does have significantly more mechanical depth than D&D does. D&D is very rules light when it comes to games like D&D. Now, is D&D rules light when compared to other games, out there? No, there's definitely much more rules light games than D&D, but in the traditional fantasy RPG space, D&D lacks a lot of mechanical depth, and all of the depth that comes from the game really is put on the onus of the players and the DM to actually create, and the game itself is not going to do much of that for you. So, better being a relative term, Pathfinder does provide much, much more of that than you get from something like D&D. And that was kind of the point of why I am trying to revise 5th edition to a certain extent. And the cool part is they've put it all in the Creative Commons, so I can do so legally. And do I think my take on what D&D is better than the original? No. I can't say that, but I can say that I like it more. And I can definitely say that I think that I am striving to create something that has significantly more mechanical depth than you would get. Oh man, I've done a whole bunch of things here that I didn't mean to do. Significantly more mechanical depth than you would get from D&D by itself. And that is really my goal, is to utilize a system that people are familiar with in 5e, right? But provide something that actually provides them more mechanical depth to engage with for people that are looking for it. And some people will like it and some people won't. And at the end of the day, as I've said numerous times, I'm just one guy on the internet with one set of opinions. So let's see. All roleplay games should have a strength stat to make you bigger and dexterity stat make you smaller. Why should the dexterity stat make you smaller? You just feel like a dex stat should give you a smaller hitbox? Dwarf crit and dodge rate. Oh my goodness. That's so silly. Well, I mean, they do have these things in D&D called halflings that are very small, and they are very good at being sneaky and dodgy and that sort of stuff if you build them that way. But with the way D&D set up now, they can also be pretty strong if you want them to. It's also gnomes that are small and can be pretty sneaky. All right, so I am nearing my finish up time for today. Let's finish knocking out this region. And then I can see we've got a few friends of the channel on, so I will let you guys decide who we want to raid today. So we can either go raid For Vanity, who stopped by earlier today to say hi. And she's out there playing some Dead by Daylight. Oh, well, thank you so much, Reaper. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for resubbing. You're a rock star. It did not give me the notification, but I very much appreciate your resub. But yeah, we can either go raid For Vanity, who's doing some Dead by Daylight, or we can raid a friend of the channel, Marg, Machiavellian Raccoon. She is doing Expedition 33. So I will let chat make the decision. Or if nobody weighs in, then I will pick from there. Nope, not stairs. This is 5-foot elevation. Nope. Yes, I'm sure I want to destroy that region behavior because I want to put my own script in there. And we will put you at 5 feet. Boom. All right, but we don't want that height. We need to change the heights to that. Success. Alrighty, well, so we got our next map started, we got our last map finished, we progress further towards readiness for our campaign. We did our best to try to help Golden out with his query. I do think I have the answer to it now, so I will get with him and hopefully be able to help him get his role situation set up. But it does look like this is where we are going to have to end things for today, folks. So I'm going to say we're going to raid Machiavellian Raccoon. Marg, good friend of the channel. She is always a rock star. And she is getting down on some Expedition 33. So we are going to go see how she's doing. And I appreciate you all. I hope everybody will stick around for the raid. Check out Marg's channel. She's an awesome streamer. We definitely appreciate her. And as always, whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening, I hope that it has been a good one for you. And this is Captain Kirk signing off, and I will be back with you guys tomorrow for more map making. All right, guys. Talk to you next time.